Hi, I'm Kevin Sullivan, owner of Marvin's. Today we're going to go over how to make a garlic cheeseburger, how we make it here in the restaurant, but then also I have some supplies that you might find at your local store that you can make a garlic cheeseburger at home. So we're going to start off with using what we call hard baked buns. So basically we're going to finish cooking these buns in the oven. Okay, every single order we make a freshly baked bun. So we start off with a little butter on top, a little garlic, okay, and we're going to put it in the oven. It's going to take about 4 or 5 minutes to cook that bun. So what we have here is just your local store-bought, okay. Now this is not par baked, this is just going to be toasted. So we're just going to take this bun and we're just going to toast it. So it's not going to take nearly as long, or else you're just going to overcook it. But you're going to do the same thing by buttering the top at home. You can just use a spreadable butter that you might have at home, and also just some garlic salt that you also have at home, and you're going to pop it in the oven as well. But you're not going to cook it nearly as long because it's already fully cooked. Now we also have some French fries that you're going to just bake in your oven at home, because most likely you're not going to have a deep fryer that we use obviously in a commercial setting. So you're just going to pop yours in the oven. And then when the sandwich is ready, you're going to top it with some cheese. Now I've just gone out to the store and I bought some cheese whiz. It's not going to be the same as what we use at the restaurant, but it's going to be close, I think, as to what we use. So after it's been in the oven for about a minute or two, you're going to take it out. You're going to put your patties on there, top them with the cheese, because you're going to want the cheese to melt down onto the patties while it's finishing cooking. Same thing with the bun that you bought at the store. Now I'm going to give our fries a little shake. So now we've got the store-bought one. It's going to be all done. So I'm just going to go ahead and plate that up. Once again, it doesn't take as long because it's already cooked. All we have to do is just toast it. Whereas the par-baked bun, we're actually cooking it, finish cooking that bun every single time. That being the difference. Go ahead and pop your fries out of the oven. Now right over here, we're going to take a little of the cheese that I talked about that you can just buy at the local store. Just go ahead and heat it up. And then you're just going to drizzle it right on top. Follow me around front. We're going to go ahead and cheese that up. So here's your difference. So this is a picture of the original Marvin's building. Marvin operated down in the basement of the Greyhound bus station. Now back, you can see the sign at the top. It says Topper's Pizza University, and that's what Marvin started out as. Over the years, it's kind of moved a few locations. This being probably the most prominent, most remembered of the buildings, with the brown building with Marvin's script across the top. That's the actual building that my father owned that Marvin moved his restaurant into. And that's how we became part of the Marvin's legacy. So he's actually making burritos. For a long time, the garlic cheeseburger wasn't even invented when he first opened. So he was just doing pizzas, and then he started doing burritos. And the big sandwich back in the day was called the stromboli, which we still sell now. But it's different than what most people think of as a stromboli. And the reason we make it that way is because that's how Marvin made it. But burritos back in the 80s were the big item. Instead of just having a typical burrito size, being on a college campus, he wanted something bigger. So the bigger burrito is the wet burrito, which takes a full 12-inch shell, basically folded over in half with salsa and sour cream on top of it. And that's where the wet burrito comes from, because it is wet with the salsa and the sour cream. It's basically a trailer that they moved in, and he operated out of that. And that also was the Greyhound bus stop back when the bus came through Greencastle. So after they moved that is now over next to Ridpath, and it's a community center over there.
Oh.
So after that building is when they moved into the brown building that I just talked about, that my father owned. That Marvin needed some place to move, so my dad put him in there, and that's how he started becoming, as far as the operational aspect of Marvin's, he started helping Marvin run it. After a few years, Marvin decided it was time to retire. He'd been doing it long enough. It was time to settle down. So that's when my dad bought it, and we took over. Marvin's Delivers Pictures got started back in 1984 when Jeff Travis went over to Austria over winter term. His parents actually went over to see him, and they asked him, "Is there anything that we can bring you, while we're visiting?" And he said, "Yeah, I want a couple Marvin's burritos." Well, they thought it would be fun to come get a couple Marvin's burritos and take them over to them. So they did. And that's where Jeff got the idea to take the Marvin's Delivers picture, the very first one. Now, one of the more infamous pictures we have is right up here into the Red Square, where these students, also during winter term, got arrested by the KGB and spent the night in the brig because of the sign. In Moscow at the time, during the height of the Cold War, they had no idea what Marvin's was. They thought that they were saying that there was going to be a missile coming to Red Square. So obviously they arrested them. I'm sure a very long night for them in jail. But after everything got straightened away, they were released and allowed to come back to the United States. Those two gentlemen there were two of these over here. So they went back to Russia to take the picture again. This time, no issues. Paddles that we've gotten over the years. But not all fraternities and sororities would, but most, sure. And as you can see, a lot of the fraternities and sororities aren't even around anymore. You've got Delta Zeta, you've got the CHOPS, the Lambda Chi Alpha. Those are no longer on campus. AO Pi.
That's Drake and Gurgley and Claymire and Thornhill.
So I think I got here in 1992, and Marvin Long was one of the very first people that I met because I was hungry. The university put me in a little apartment over here, and it was probably the middle of April or so, and I ended up eating probably more GCBs in that first month than I've eaten total in the last 30 years. But it did give me the opportunity to get to know Marvin a little bit. And at that time, Marvin's was based in what to me was the original Marvin's, and what we're finding out was not actually the original Marvin's, but was kind of this shack that was on the edge of campus, and everybody loved it. And I think one of the big reasons that everybody loved it was because everybody loved Marvin's. I think Marvin, anytime you can you can market your business with that sort of personality, I think it's incredibly effective, especially for young people. Because I think when people came to Marvin's, they really felt wanted and accepted and valued, and Marvin was always happy to see them. One of the things among many that amazed me about this dude was he remembered everybody's name. I mean, and I'm not talking about just the kids who were coming in every Friday night. I'm talking about the people that came in 10 years before on Friday nights. And to me, that was absolutely incredible and really an invaluable tool for the university, because people would just keep coming back. And why would they come back? They'd come back to see if they could have a 5-minute conversation with Marvin, because they know Marvin would remember them, and there was that connection that was always there to the place. So Marvin was one of my first connections to DePauw. And then that kind of grew over the years, because Marvin was a huge sports fan. He really liked athletics and really loved basketball. He used to change his spot. He used to either be in the end zone by our bench or sometimes right behind our bench. And one of the things that I loved about Marvin is he would always seek me out and always say, well, I don't know anything, but. And then he would have lots of suggestions as to who we should play and, what was good, bad, or indifferent about the team on any particular night. We had a long history of players over the years that Marvin and then Mike Sullivan after Marvin employed as Sunday delivery guys. And the Sunday delivery thing was a huge business, because the fraternities and the sororities didn't have meals on Sunday nights, and those guys would make $100 on the night, and that was a thing that kind of that we kind of snagged from those guys and got passed along from player to player over the years, and was a pretty good chance for our guys to kind of to have a little income and have a little walking around money. And I always appreciated the fact that Mike and Marvin checked with us first about what guys might need a few extra bucks and might really be able to use that money, and they would hold those Sunday delivery slots for those guys, unless they were screwing it up, and then they move on to the next guy. But for the most part, I think our guys did a pretty good job with that.